Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging podcast discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, 𝗘𝐀𝐥𝐚𝐭𝐞𝐝, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate tax management strategies, new construction advice, home improvement tips, and much, much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host and Real Estate Radio Live team leader, 𝗘𝐀𝐥𝐚𝐭𝐞𝐝. Welcome in. This is 𝗘𝐀𝐥𝐚𝐭𝐞𝐝 with Real Estate Radio Live, the podcast series. Thank you again for tuning in for our constant continuing education information on anything and everything real estate. Just remember, with you 5 days a week. Monday, we have Mike D'Ambrosio doing a show. Mike and I do Tuesdays. I am Mr. Solo on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And now we are doing our Friday show back with Buddy and Bobby. And we have a great podcast and information for you today. Before we get started, just a reminder, if you have any need for real estate services one way or another, buying, selling real estate, consultation at all, be sure to contact Bobby Decker at area code 650-346-5352, and you can also reach her website, bobbydecker.com. That's bobbydecker.com. 𝗘𝐀𝐥𝐚𝐭𝐞𝐝, I am the guy you need for any financing. So if you need purchase money, refinance, any kind of consultation with that, you could reach me at 408-838-9060, or you could always go to 𝗪𝗡radiolive.com. How you guys doing?
Hey, excellent.
Hey, we're doing great. Great. Yes.
Good. Ready to wrap up 16. We're going to talk about 17 and much, much more. So exciting. The topic today is going to be the forecast for 2017, and we have a lot to talk about for sure. So excited to jump in here, and it's that time again, isn't it, guys? We're going to look at 2017. So where do we go from here?
How did that year go by so quickly? Well, first of all,
it is amazing.
Yeah, first of all, I'm going to start with a recast of what you guys said last year.
I might have to duck out for a couple of minutes.
No, I don't think we were that far off the mark.
No, in fact, you were very good. And one thing you were constantly talking about was for the Bay Area buyers to get going, and because rates were going to go up, and sure enough, they did. In fact, they're taking some pretty sizable jumps.
Yes, they are.
At this point in time. So you both talked about it. So I'm sorry for you buyers that sat on the sidelines and missed that opportunity. Also, the last half of the year, there were some areas where there weren't multiple offers, where things were selling at list or even taking offers that were a little bit below list in a few cases, and particularly on the high end, there was a lot of massive price reductions. So that may not be the continuum, and we're going to talk more about that. So here's my critique of Joe. So he was really quite accurate. He talked about the fact that rates were going to come up in the back half of 2016, which they absolutely did. One of the reasons, though, that they did was hard for anybody to forecast.
Yeah.
Donald Trump. He wasn't on anybody's radar, and all of a sudden, he had a pretty substantial effect on rates. Now, we also know that there was a lot of talk about raising rates with the Fed. Now, up until a week or so ago, that was the case. They kind of stayed nice and flat. Now they're joining in the game. So, Joe, you were very accurate. Maybe one reason that nobody foresaw clearly with Mr. Trump, but the fact that the Feds are stepping in again also portends something for the future, I suspect. But, Joe, what do you think of my critique for your 2016 forecast?
It's good, although I'm going to have to write this down in stone, but I was right.
You were right.
I was right.
That was right. We're going to get you a poster. We'll get you a Christmas poster.
Mark the date.
That's right.
I have a friend that says you can't be wrong all the time. We laugh endlessly about that.
Okay, Bobby, you certainly got it right, too, again, but a couple different reasons. Early part of the year, roared like a lion, as you mentioned, for most of the segments in the market, just as you said. So is this going to be happening here? I'm right. Bobby's right.
Yeah.
And what's Buddy? He just tells us we're right. He's a good person to have around.
He is. He's a good support. Yes, that's very.
You need one of those on some occasions, don't you?
That's true.
But that's the reality. You guys both had it marked pretty clearly. It did roar in, but then it got quiet again in the summer in some market segments.
It got quiet in the very high end. Most came to a halt, and we talked about that early in the year. Anything over $3 million in the lower end of the market, condo segments faltered in certain areas. Now, for those listening around the world, on to San Francisco. Peninsula, you're lucky if you can find, isn't that the truth? Can you find something under 800,000?
No.
No. Just
not much at all. Not even condominiums.
Yeah.
1-bedroom condominiums.
We spoke about improving inventory because of the condo projects that came up in the stream of last year. And also, two people were blaming the uncertainty of the fixation of the election, but certainly things slowed things down for sure.
How did we do, Bob?
Well, you did right, and we did have. It started off a little slow last year too, Joe.
It did.
Then it bubbled up right around February. Yep. Then it kept roaring along, and then in July and August, it was like everybody went on vacation. Like suddenly the streets were empty. No one was showing up at houses. People couldn't see it, and the sellers haven't seen it coming. They still are in denial. Yeah. Still in denial. So they will say, well, the last one sold for $1.4 million, so I'm going to come on at $1.6 million, and then they sit until they go to $1.4 million.
Is that I don't want to that brings up a question, and you being the expert in this area, is that, I know that a lot of the sellers are still in denial, but is it also a case of sometimes potentially working with the wrong realtors? In other words, do realtors come in and say, they got 1.2, I'm going to get you 1.3? Is there some of that going on, or is it mostly just the seller still wanting that next highest in the neighborhood?
I think it's more the seller wanting it. Okay. If the agent's really, really good, they're going to look and show you how many days on the market it's going, and the fact that, I was reading one now. If we bought something in 1930, they bought something in San Francisco for $30,000. So that was a lot of money back then.
Yeah, it was.
I'm not discounting that. But today they're selling it at $6.9 million.
So
much for that family.
Not a bad investment.
Not a bad investment. So I mean, if you look long term, nothing beats getting your own home and having a piece of your own American pie.
Well, we've talked about that over and over again as real estate's an asset class. People really need to start to think more along those lines. The people that did buy it and keep it are very, very happy. I think Bobby did some stats once upon a time that she showed me that the average return for buying a house, over the longer term was over 8% on average. And certainly that hasn't necessarily been the case in a consistent stock market. Every now and then you get a nice pop.
Well, I think that one of our podcasts here is going to be about that. And we'll do that, about how you buy and keep and how short term can really mess you up.
Not only that too, but real quickly as we move along, is that that's not even including the tax benefit for your primary residence, right?
Exactly.
Right. So you've got tax benefit. Oh, by the way, you live there, you love there, it's your lifestyle. Yeah. Duh. Before we get really into the 2017 forecast, though, I got to make another little note about Miss Decker. She's won yet another award. We talked about her receipt of at the National Association of Realtors of a Certified International Property Specialist Award, but now the local chamber or the local association, San Mateo County Association of Realtors, has offered her yet another Outstanding Service Award. That's due in 2016. So that, from the standpoint of what SAMCAR looks at, it's the community involvement. So this is not, neither of those are really about realty, selling realty, if you will. It's about what she does in the community, her give back, her charitable contributions with each escrow. And when that was mentioned in the at the installation meeting, where there were probably, 500 people or so, people really applauded that. Can you imagine? For over a decade, Bobby's been giving back part of every escrow to charities, and particularly some of those of her client's choice. So, Bobby, we have to congratulate you before we jump into 2017.
Congratulations, and well-deserved.
Yeah,
thank you, guys. But I have to tell you, real estate builds communities, and giving back to the community is fun. I mean, I've been really lucky. You too, Joe. I mean, we've been very fortunate in real estate.
We have.
It's given us a great lifestyle, and you've got to give back to the people that don't, because not everybody in Silicon Valley is rocking and rolling.
No.
So giving back kind of makes it's like paying forward.
That's right.
That fun thing.
And there is something about that. You hear that all the time, but it is true much better to give than receive. I mean, when you do something that makes a difference in someone's life and you could actually see it one way or another, it's a great thing, that's for sure.
Well, they did a study, and the Wall Street Journal talked about it. They gave somebody $25, and they said you can spend it on yourself or you can give it to one of these charities, and they felt better. Then they went back. Some people spent it on themselves because they were not directed, and other people. And then they said, how do you feel about what you did with the money? And the people who gave it away were happier. Isn't that wild? They were happier. There was across the board. So that's cool.
The psychology of it.
Yeah.
You know,
making a difference, like
making
Joe
a
just said.
difference. Yeah. I mean, we're all here on the planet. We all have things we have to do and want to do. But giving back to those that don't have it or are much less fortunate than many of the rest of us gives you a very strong feeling about, you know, adding value to our lovely planet. So before we jump into our friends in 2017, I have to make a couple more comments. You guys are not going to have an easy forecast, I don't think, here. Mr. Trump became the change agent of 2016, and it would appear if he lives up to some of his promises, he'll continue to be a dramatic change agent during 2017. So what's going to happen locally, nationally, and internationally with all this? We're already beginning to feel every time we pick up the paper some issue about international issues coming along with this unique election that we've gone through. Today's headline was about the power of the dollar. So, guys, we're going to have to get started on 2017. Joe, you want to start the lead here on some of your thoughts about 2017?
I will. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to jump right back into that. You're listening to Joe, Bobby, and Buddy. Again, we're doing the forecast for 2017. Again, any real estate services needs, contact Bobby Decker at area code 650-346-5352. And any financing needs you have at all, you could reach me at area code 408-838-9060. We'll be back with you in a minute to continue our show.
For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com.
Bobby Decker is a recognized veteran of the real estate industry with 30 years of assisting clients to buy and sell property. Educating the public through her television programs, radio interviews, web streaming, websites, and newspaper articles helps people gain valuable knowledge that makes them better suited to accomplish their home ownership or sales goals. Ms. Decker is a vice president at today's Sotheby's International Realty, part of the global family. With 660 offices in 47 countries, she provides extensive marketing resources and services to her clients that have a wide set of needs, from selling properties on the San Francisco Mid-Peninsula and Silicon Valley to trophy ranches and vacation properties in the Sierra Foothills. When clients have needs in other parts of America or the world, she can refer them to other Sotheby's International Realty or Sotheby's Auction House locations. Contact Bobby at BobbyDecker.com. That's BobbyDecker.com. Or call 650-346-5352.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's topic or guests, just visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Again, your host for today's edition of Real Estate Radio Live, Joe 𝐑𝐞𝐤𝐵.
Welcome back in. Joe 𝐑𝐞𝐤𝐵 with Real Estate Radio Live, the podcast series, sitting alongside Bobby and Buddy. We're doing our Friday show and excited to be talking about the 2017 forecast. Just as we were exiting the last segment there, Buddy was asking me about some of the general things that could take place or product differences in 2017. Rates are going to be up for sure, and the Fed announced this week that raised a quarter, and she did indicate that there's probably going to likely be 3 more increases of maybe roughly a quarter. So, one of the things I think we all should be aware of, I did a show on this yesterday, we've all really, what I'm concerned about is people think that the rates are going to come back down. It's not going to happen. So if you have a home equity line of credit, if you have an adjustable interest rate, act now and look at the possibilities, because the thing that people haven't witnessed, you guys, in years is with the prime being at its all-time low And now for the first time, it's going to tick up for the next 8 to 12 months. So that's going to affect home equity lines, credit cards, car payments, adjustable interest rates, where people are loving those adjustables because they were staying flat. They will no longer stay flat.
That party's gone.
So act now. I would say be careful. That's probably one of the biggest things I see, and I'm concerned with people that I think it's been so many years of they'll come back down. And they're just not.
Yeah. So really,
and if they're not waiting for the rates to come down, Joe, they're going, the prices are going to crash. Well, guess what? Nobody put up a multitude of homes while we weren't looking. The peninsula is really unique that way.
So we've had conversation upon conversation about conversation for first-time buyers to get going. So, Joe, what does this all mean for our first-time buyers?
Well, first-time buyers are probably going to have the toughest end of this, let's face it. Although, again, when I say that, let's keep in mind we live in a bit of a bubble here in the Silicon Valley. I do see several first-time home buyers, making several $100,000 a year, so it's untraditional that we think about a first-time home buyer. But still, I do think they'll have the toughest go of it because in some cases, you guys, if people are getting into their first home for $600,000 or $700,000 around here, let's say, and they're just making enough to qualify for that, the rates going up 3/8 to 0.5% could have an impact. They could now they can't get that $600,000 or $700,000 house, or they may have to drop down in the 500 range. So those are going to be the first-time home buyers will be affected for sure.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
How about the move-up market? Those people that are already in a low-rate situation. That could have some serious meaning for inventory again in the new year. The move-up market, what does that foretell from your perspective, Joe?
That's interesting. It'll be interesting to see, again, this, you guys, as I thought about this yesterday, this will be the first year of the move-up buyer making a big decision. What I mean by that is a move-up, they may have an interest rate around 3.5%, sitting pretty cozy, wanting to move up, buy a more expensive home, but then looking at that payment and 3.5% going, is the next one going to be 4.25% or 4.5%? Doesn't mean that won't happen. I think we'll always have the move up, but it will be interesting to see how this year plays out with the move up buyers because of that.
Because of that, they just don't want to let go.
Let go of that.
Well, that's also with property taxes. If they can't take their old base with them, Joe, and they go in, they've been keeping their low rate because of the Proposition 13. They've got low property taxes, lower than their next-door neighbor who just bought a month ago. And so they look and go, wow. But I see my senior saying, I'm going to take my old tax base. Be very careful. We've had a ton of radio programs on that. Be very, very careful. Those people out there listening, don't go do this until you check out the county. Because only 6 do it now, 6 or 7, Joe. And so if you say, I'm just going to take it, I'm going to go to L.A., well, maybe you'll get it if you're in the right part, but you can't. There's so many. Marin does not have it. They just dropped it because they want those additional taxes coming into the coffers.
Right.
So San Mateo does and Santa Clara does. So we're lucky. We can switch back and forth between these 2 counties and use that.
Okay, Bobby. Well, you've got the microphone. What do you see for real estate? How about locally, nationally, and internationally? Can you cover all that?
Sure.
Sure.
Locally, there's no land. I don't know whether or not you noticed, we have the bay on one side, the ocean on the other side, a ton of, although I know the environmentalists would like more, a ton of protected land, Joe. So you can't build on it, period, end of statement. You can't build on the water. Can't build on that land. So we have a lot of people buying $1 million houses, knocking them down and building new. And that's the first-time buyer that you're talking about that's making quite a bit of money. However, internationally, the money's not easily coming here anymore.
That's true.
China's put restrictions. They even are restricting commercial. My friends in commercial real estate are going, whoa, that used to be an open spigot. Now it's a little bit of a drip, drip, drip. And then you still have the unrest in Turkey, so they're coming, but they tend to go to Miami. That's still fueling that market.
Okay.
What can I tell you? If we have IPOs, we'll be rocking and rolling to some extent. because they're going to feel wealthy. If
Right.
they feel flush,
True.
they'll make and don't you have loans where they can borrow against their restricted stocks or something like that? What's that, Joe?
Well, it's there's people who have assets and stocks and different things. If they have the right money manager or the institution they work with, they could actually leverage their stocks or investments and get money in some unique different ways. So yeah, there's a lot of things you could do creatively with stocks that aren't quite ready, or maybe someone has assets. And quite frankly, a lot of the wealthy people do that a lot. Mm-hmm. They use their assets to leverage different things, and even like bridge loans or different things. They buy property and they hang on to it for a period of time. But you're right, there are some interesting ways some of these people could move money around.
And I think you have to think outside the box. If there's one thing that Mr. Trump, President-elect, has shown us, is that thinking outside the box is starting to be a good thing. Do you know what I mean? It's at least getting people thinking again.
Right.
We're kind of lulled into this very boring existence where somebody else was going to take care of something. Now it's like, nope, the boots are on. As my father would say, the military, get going.
Okay. Well, Bobby, you touched on a little earlier. How about the stalled inventory issue?
Stalled inventory is still stalled. You know what's going to help us? If indeed long-term capital gains drops. That's going to help us, right, Joe?
Yep.
Because you've got 35%. They don't want to pay the government 35% for keeping an asset for 30 to 50 years. They were smart enough to do that. They were smart enough not to use it like a piggy bank. And why should they give them back $1 million?
Right.
They don't mind giving some, but, we had that whole case where somebody died right before they sold the house, so it was a stepped-up basis to the partner, and then somebody did not, so they paid the full boat.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. The one thing I'm hearing a lot, and you probably are too, Bobby, is there are a lot of people that are in their homes worth $2, $3, $4 million. They don't owe anything or very little on it, and they're sitting back, scratching their head or wondering, do I really want to sell this and take that kind of a hit?
I know, and that's
a big
why.
decision. They got to figure out what they're going to.
Well, what helped them, Joe, are the rents.
Yeah,
they can
good
rent
point.
it for
That's
such
true.
a huge amount that they can cover all of their costs, the costs of having assisted care. I mean, so their bill in assisted care is $9,000 a month. I know it's high, but they're renting their home for $11,000.
Yeah.
And they didn't get a capital gains hit. So as long as that's got a good roof and a good foundation, don't let it go to waste. I mean, do not let. We were talking about being house rich and cash poor.
Right.
We've got to be really careful. That's where your reverse mortgages come in. But you've got a lot of new condos coming on. People might buy them and then lease them out, and they go, well, why would you buy $1 million condo and lease it out? Because you get huge rents. Huge.
Yeah, so it's all kind of a wild car ride for 2017, isn't it?
It is.
Very much.
Buckle up.
Yeah, buckle up, guys. So you guys have to make the call on what's going to happen here. So I don't envy you at all, because this is a little complex. This wild card situation is going to be very interesting. But if there's something that you could say to homeowners, buyers, and investors, Joe, what would that be? What would your advice be to that group of people that's out there, particularly in our lovely area of the Bay Area? What do they need to be thinking about?
Yeah, I would say, go out and buy, and don't be afraid to sell or make a transaction. Now, it may sound funny. We just got talking about high interest rates and how they've gone up. The reason we have that conversation we share with people is because we provide people with education. We want to help them make informed decisions. But I'm still a huge fan, and I always will be, I think, of buying when the time is right for you and selling when the time is right for you. Certainly you look at what the situation is, but, historically speaking, we talked a little bit off air here, interest rates are, you start talking about interest rates in the 4%, low 4%.
Yeah. And you guys were talking about 12%.
Yeah. So I'd say, we have a great year coming. I really do think there's going to be some interesting things. Obviously, we're going to sit back and we're going to look and see what happens in the Trump administration. What are some of those changes going to take place? How are they going to unfold? I think he is going to be better for business environment, and we'll see about the real estate. But I think when we talk about some of the capital gains, tax issues, savings, so my suggestion would be get out there and make your move. Don't sit back and wait. Get out there if you're ready and make your move.
Yeah, Bobby touched on it earlier, the IPO market.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly the stock market's been storming here at the back half of the year. If that continues forward, then we've got a whole other situation to look at. So, Bobby, what's your recommendation for all those people that are in the market of either buying or selling property?
You have to be smart. And you have to be strategic. And you have to do it if it's right for you. My dad had an old saying, if Susie went and, I'd go, but Susie can do it. And he'd go, well, if Susie went and jumped off a bridge, would you go after her? So be smart, be strategic, and quit stalling. There's my third one, the SSS. Because stalling's costing you. It's costing you, right?
The triple S.
The triple S.
There we go.
You can't stall because of the interest rates.
No, it's true. Very true. All right, this is, as we wrap things up, again, thank you for tuning in today, and be sure to do us a favor. Go on to our website. You go to 𝗟𝗓𝗠𝐷.com or iTunes. Give us a review, right? Tell us what you think. We want you to give us a review. Tell us what you think. Hopefully you enjoy the series. And also, if you have any ideas for shows, we are open-minded, and we love to bring you more information and education. All right, guys, it's been a great show.
Yeah,
great
hey,
show.
And everybody out there, may 2017 be your best year yet.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Until next time, take care.
You've been listening to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's program, visit 𝗟ERadiolive.com. That's 𝗟ERadiolive.com. Subscribe to our podcast. Discover more at 𝗟ERadiolive.com.